This is the third video in my instructional series designed to make you proficient and conversant with using Excel really in the workplace. Most office positions, or I should say at least more and more office positions now, are looking for people that have skills with Excel because it's a great tool to be used in the office. This particular video is being recorded on a Mac desktop. Could also have been done on a PC-based desktop or a MacBook or other portable computer. What it's not meant for is to be doing the work on your iPad Pro. The functions, for the most part, are on the iPad Pro, but a lot of the commands on the Pro are different than the commands that we're going to be going over here. By the way, you should have already seen my videos 1 and 2 before you look at this one, because this one is building on the previous 2. So if you haven't watched 1 and 2, or only watched one of the 2, you should get out of this and go back and get caught up on the ones that you haven't seen yet. So with that, we'll now go into this, and what you'll see that we'll be using the same worksheet for the most part that we've used in 1 and 2. And in this case, we've added some additional information, and I'm going to start out by showing you how to use that stuff before we actually go into the video in depth. Okay, if you take a look at the spreadsheet, hopefully you're going to notice that I have added a few additional columns to the sheet. Where the arrow is pointing down, where it says sell price, that wasn't there before, and so I have added that and filled in the selling price that applies to each of the items that are there. The belt, as you could see, costs $1.99 and we're selling it for $2.99. Information. Then, if you go next to that, you'll see sales at cost. Sales at cost is blank because in order for me to get what sales at cost is equal to, I would have to multiply the unit sales times the unit cost. Now I have unit sales here, I have unit cost here, so I can do the calculation, which I'm going to do in a couple minutes, and put the answer there. Then, if you go over to the next column, you're going to see dollars in sales. Now that I have the selling price of each item, I could also calculate what the total sales were for the order by multiplying the unit sales by the selling price. And if I wanted to add an additional column for me to determine profitability, by the way, let's get rid of this now again, and let's put a column in right here. I'm going to say to insert, and you see when the drop-down menu comes, it's going to say I could insert a column. Now, where do I want it? When I do the insert, the column that will be added will be to the left of the cell that I'm in. So in this case, that's not what I wanted to do. So I'm going to go over here, get rid of this, and say this is where I want to have the column added. So I'm going to highlight this column. I'm going to say insert and put in column. And so now I have a blank column. And what am I going to put in there? I'm going to type in the word profit. Because if I know what the sales were at retail and I know what the sales were at cost, it would be very easy for me to calculate what the profit was. And so I'm showing you these things as a way of helping you to understand other things that I might do with this Excel worksheet to help my boss manage the business, or if it's my own business, to help me to manage that business. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust this once more, and the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go through with the actual calculations. Now we've expanded our file, and we've got these 3 blank columns that are there. Now think ahead. The purpose of this worksheet that we've got is to give us a snapshot of the business, as much information as we can present sensibly in a relatively easy to read format. So let's take a look at the 3 blank columns. Sales at cost. Let's highlight the first row in that column. And let's say that we know that the sales at cost is equal to, and I key in the equal to, the number of sales, which is this, which I highlighted, times, I put in times the unit cost. When I select the return key, it does the multiplication for me. Now I can highlight that, drag it all the way down to the bottom cell. And all of my numbers come in. Now that's the simplest way to copy a formula down. There are times, however, where it makes more sense to copy formulas in multiple files. Let me illustrate that when I do the sales and the profit. Let's highlight the sales. If I highlight the sales, I could say that it equals to unit sales, which I'll highlight, times, again, this time, times the selling price. And so I know that F7 times H7 is going to give me the dollars in sales. Now I'm going to want to copy that all the way down, and I could do that, and that's the simplest way to handle the formula. But for the purpose of this illustration, I also know that the profit is going to be equal to the total sales, which I just highlighted, minus the sales at cost. And when I highlight those cells and push the enter, I now have the first 2 rows in those 2 columns calculated. If I highlight both of those cells, not just one, you'll notice that the little dot is at the column on the right. I could have done it for all 3. I chose not to. So now I'm going to drag that dot down all the way to the last row in those cells. And now in one fell swoop, I have done the last 2 much faster. If you're like me and you're basically lazy, you're going to look to do the work in the fewest number of clicks. So look at what we've got here. We've got a detailed list of information about our whole sales force. And at the end, we have these 4 columns that tell us what our inventory position is on the items that we're selling. We know how much we have in inventory after the sales are over. We know how much is on order, which allows us to calculate our position on the item. So now what we're going to do, and we're going to do this a couple of ways, is we're going to do some summaries of the data that will give us some additional information that is going to help us to manage our business better. The important thing is that you, as a member of the office staff, are going to be in a position to look at these tables, add columns where necessary, take columns where they should be out of there, and end up with a tool that will help you to manage this business more effectively. So now, as you look at this, we have a worksheet that's expanding on us. We've been adding additional information to it. And that's very typical in the business environment, that you think of other things that you would like to accumulate data on. And so you expand on the sheet. And you can do that perhaps get yourself 100 columns wide if you wanted. But the more that you add, the more cumbersome it becomes to try and use the data without spending a ton of time actually working on what it is that you're doing. And so one of the things that you're going to want to learn how to do is to accumulate or total segments of this data so that you can use it for a particular purpose. As an example, we might want to know in a year's time what the sales were on each one of the items that we offer for sale. And there's ways we can sort the data that will easily tell us that. And what I'm going to demonstrate for you right now is not the best way to do the total, but the easiest way. And before we're through with this whole series of videos, I will put one in there with the best practices. But for now, if you can get what I'm going to show you and be able to use it, you're going to get a lot more out of the database, and you're going to be a lot more valuable in your business, to your company or to yourself if it's your own business. So I'm going to go over and I'm going to highlight the first in the upper left-hand corner cell. And then I'm going to drag that all the way over to all of the cells on the sheet and then all the way down so that every one of the cells is highlighted. And because I want to accumulate sales by item, I'm going to make the decision to sort this database by item. So after everything is highlighted, I'm going to click on the sort and filter, the little down arrow that's there, which we've done before, and I'm going to select custom sort. Now you'll notice that it defaults to sort by the one column in the left-hand side, the leftmost column, and we don't want to do that. We want to sort this particular one by the item column, the one that I'm showing now, so that all of the items will be together, so I will be able to easily total them. So I'm going to select the arrows next to the right, actually, of order date, click that, and I'm going to change from order date to item. And that's really all I want to do. I want to sort from A to Z all of the items in this list. And when I click OK, you can see that Excel did that for me. It starts with all of the sales of batteries and belts and then so on. So now I want to create a place, and I'm going to do it over here where the cross is moving, and I'm going to highlight a bunch of cells here, and I'm going to change this so that it reflects Arial and 20, because I don't remember if I did those cells earlier. I want the printing to be the same size as the rest of the data in my table. So once I do that, I'm now ready to say that in the top row, I want it to equal the total sales on batteries. So you notice I highlighted any one of the batteries, and so it's going to say battery. For the next one, I'm going to say that that's going to equal, and I'm just going to select belt. Now you notice I'm highlighting it and getting the information that way. If I prefer, and I don't because it takes a second or two longer and I'm lazy, I could type in the word that I want. For example, the next one that I want after belt is cable set. So I can just highlight this cell and then type in the word cable set. And so now I have cable set typed in. I can go to the next one. And then I want to go back to the lazy guy's way. And I'm going to say after cable set is going to be clamp. So I'm going to say equals, and then I'm going to highlight clamp so I don't have to type it in. And then after clamp is going to be test kit. So for the next one, I'm going to say equals, and then I'm going to highlight test kit. And it doesn't matter which one I pick, as long as I've got the proper word there. So I've got the fact that there's 5 different items that I'm selling, and I want to put the total sales next to the item. And again, what I'm going to show you is not the best way to do the totaling, but rather the easiest way. So next to battery, I'm going to say equal, and I'm going to type the word sum. And as I start typing sum, you'll see the drop-down menu opens up, and there's sum. I'm going to select sum, and I'm going to go to unit sales, and I'm going to highlight the cells all the way down to the end of battery. You could see that the next cell after where I'm highlighted is belt. I don't want that. What I want next to battery is the sum starting with 27 and ending with 76. When I'm happy that the right cells are highlighted, I enter, and I get a total of battery sales for the year. Now for the belt, I'm going to say equal, and I'm going to put in sum again. Sum is in. I select it. Now I go next to the belts, the top one. I go all the way down to the 7. All of the unit sales for belts are now highlighted. Close my parentheses, hit the return key, and it tells me I've got 508 in sales of belts for the year. After that, I'm going to do cable set. So again, equals sum, select sum, and now I'm going to highlight the cable cells all the way down to the end. I want to be sure that they're all included. Close the parentheses. And I did something wrong because I didn't highlight the actual numbers. So that's fine. I see I made a mistake. That's no problem. I enter it again, equals sum. Just go right over that. Select sum. Once I've got that done, I'm going to highlight the first number alongside cable set. After they're all highlighted, I'm going to close the parentheses, and now I get the cable set. So if I make a mistake, it isn't like I have to start the whole thing over again. It's easy to correct it. And so that's just kind of a point that as you're doing formulas in Excel, it's easy to make sure or do the best that you can to make sure that the numbers that you're presenting are accurate. Now for the clamp, we're going to say again, equals sum. And we're going to highlight that. Now, watch what I'm going to do here. I'm going to stop short of where I need to be. There's one more sale of clamp, and I didn't highlight it. Well, before I push the enter key, I should be looking at this to make sure that what's highlighted is what I want highlighted. And when I see that it's wrong, I can drag it down one more cell if I want, or I can say, oh, I made a mistake. And so I can, in this point, say, instead of F31 to F44, I could just go in and I could change the 44 to 45 if I wanted to do that, or I could erase the whole thing and start again. But here I just changed the 44 to 45. Once I'm happy that that's what I want, hit enter and I get the total. And then lastly, I want to do the same thing for test kit. Equal the sum. And I'm going to highlight the test kits. Got them all. Close the parentheses. Hit the enter, and now I've totaled every one of the items. Now there's other things that I might want to do. I might want to get my total sales by region. And so if I wanted to do that, I would end up resorting this data by region. And once I did that, I would be able to create the totals by region. Now, recognize that if I was to resort this data and then try to retotal it there, I would probably get, not probably, I would get the wrong answers because I would be changing the order that these things were there, and the totals that I had there wouldn't be correct. Toward the end of this series of videos, I'm going to show you a much better way to do the sort so the integrity of what's being sorted stays the same, even if I resort the whole data file multiple times. That sounds like a mouthful, but for now, as far as using this on a basic way, this is the best way to be able to do your totals. Now that I have this, I might want to put together some information. Maybe the boss wants to have a sales meeting and he wants to point out how the sales are going and what's doing good and what's doing bad, and he'd like to present it differently. So let's add a little title. We don't have to add a title row, and let's call this item, and let's call this total sales. Now take a look at total sales. Look at how little it is. Why is that? And I did that on purpose. I didn't want to convert that cell over. And so I didn't get it the way that I wanted. Now Excel is trying to change it for me, but really didn't do a good job. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this total sales. I'm going to click on the fill, and I'm going to change it to no fill. And so you'll see that it changed from having a yellow fill to no fill. But you'll notice that I've got a different kind of type. I didn't set it up the same as the other, so I want to change that to Arial and 20 so it'll look like the other cells. The other thing I'm going to want to do is I'm showing this in blue, and I don't want it in blue, I want it in black. And so now, because I didn't prepare the cell in advance, I had to prepare it afterwards. At any rate, now that I've got this little bit of information, perhaps what I want is to show it graphically, because I'm going to make a presentation, or the boss is going to make a presentation. So I'm going to highlight all of this information, including the header rows, and I'm going to tell Excel to create a graph of this data. So to do that, next to home, you'll see that there's a thing called insert. I'm going to click on insert, and when I do that, it's going to give me a whole bunch of things that I'm able to insert into the sheet. And one of the things that it's going to do is it's going to show me a bunch of graphs over here. And now if I look at these graphs, I can see the different kinds of graphs that I might put in. Well, I'm going to pick this one, which is a pie chart. So when I select that pie chart, it's telling me different kinds of pie charts that I want to put in. When I say different kinds, different formats that I might use. And I'm just going to take the one in the upper left-hand corner. When I do that, Excel automatically creates the graph for me, and here it is in the middle. Well, maybe I want it to have a little bit different format than that. If you go over here and the one that's third over, and I select that, the graph that I've created is going to change to one that shows the percentages of sales. Now I can grab that as I am now by the top and slide it in underneath it. So now I have a pie chart graph indicating at a glance that this wedge right here is the biggest percentage of sales that I'm generating on my 5 items. Well, maybe I don't like that, that chart. Maybe I think that that chart ought to be a little differently. I can switch over using the insert, or in this thing it says change chart type. I can select that down arrow, and when I do that, these are all the different charts that I might have created. Well, maybe I want to change from a pie chart to a column chart. So I'm going to select that, and I'm going to pick the template that's up in the upper left-hand corner. I can take one of the others, and just by clicking on that, I've changed the way the chart looks. Maybe I think that's a better way to look at it. Maybe I'd rather not have it with vertical bars. Maybe I would rather have it with horizontal bars. So I can again change the chart type so that it, instead of having bars up and down, it's going to have the bars horizontally presented if I wanted to do that. Or perhaps I wanted to have a line chart. All of these things are options that are available to me if that's in fact what I want to do. So, for example, I might even want to change this particular chart to a line chart. And I can select line chart, and the same data is now presented as a line chart. The point is that I have a lot of different options available to me in order to present the data in a way that makes me the most comfortable, or I think that'll get my point across. So we're going to end this video with this sort and then move to the next video, hopefully, that is going to provide you some additional information. As you probably are getting the idea that there is so much flexibility in what you can do in Excel that it's going to take a long time in order for you to be totally familiar with it. Don't be discouraged. It's a message that I need to give to you, because the best way to become proficient at this is to be comfortable that you know how to do this stuff and then work with it. And if you make mistakes, almost all of the mistakes you might make are easy to fix. So again, it's not something you need to worry about. You have just completed now the third video, again, designed to get you familiar with Excel. Don't lose sight of your goal. Once you've seen the whole series, you want to be able to add Excel skills to your resume. And you're going to have the opportunity, after you watch all of these videos, to request me to send you a little quiz that you can fill out. And if you get a passing grade on the quiz, you'll be able to follow that up with a certificate that I'll issue you, which says that you're kind of certified as having completed the course and then are conversant with what you need to do to be able to work with Excel on an ongoing basis. There's other training videos on my website that can help you. This series that you're watching now is designed to have you be working on a desktop or even a laptop computer that's either a PC-based or Mac-based. While the functions that we're performing are also performable on your iPad, if what you're going to be using at work or wherever is your iPad, you're really in the wrong place. What you're going to want to do is to go into my website, which the link is shown there, and then you can select from one of the several videos that I have, or multiple videos, on how to do these same Excel functions, but on your iPad. Now, it's unfortunate that the commands are different on the iPad Pro than they are on the desktop or the laptop, but there's nothing much that we can do about it. You can also subscribe to that little red thing in the lower right-hand corner above you on the video. You can also subscribe to the channel, and then if you do that, you'll automatically be sent all of the new videos that I post. So that's a good thing for you to do with not having to do anything else but select that. And if you get tired of getting them, you can always cancel your subscription. There is no charge or anything for it. I really would appreciate that before you leave this video, if you take a minute or two to say something in the comments. If nothing else, tell me how you are planning to use Excel after you finish learning all the ins and outs of what you need to do. And so that will be very helpful to me to improve what I'm presenting to you. Um, you know, if you loved what you saw and you understand it and you can see your way clear to giving me a thumbs up, well, I appreciate that if you can. But if you find the videos are lacking and you're confused and you don't know what to do and you wish that I would have done something differently, whether you give me a thumbs down or just give me a comment to say, hey, this is a problem or this is a problem, and tell me what those are. And then if you do that, I'll do the best I can to answer any questions that you might have, and at the same time update the videos that I've put together to make it easier for people to understand.